Hello, one and all. Welcome to Kitz Corner here. So, we've shown how the Canadian government is abusing their program for assisted suicide on ordinary citizens because they've run out of options to actually help the people of Canada. So, they're just telling people to bugger off and die. And this is a program that started back in 2016 to offer assisted suicide by medical responders, doctors, what have you, to help people in last resorts. You know, the people that are on their deathbeds, the people that are suffering, that just can't bear to deal with the pain anymore. Basically, it was a way for them to get assisted suicide through the medical personnel. That has now expanded. The floodgates are now opened, and more people are now in this situation. And the government is now telling people that this is their only option in a world where they just can't. The Canadian government has refused to keep their promises, has refused to help people in need, refused to help the homelessness, refused to help people that are in dire straits, and just don't have the initiative or the go-to actually help protect and serve the people of Canada. It is downright diabolical. It is downright insane. And more people are suffering through this and becoming victims of this. We showed the news report of, I think it was City News, that the guy from St. Catharines, who was a disabled person, could not afford his rent, cannot afford to live in his tiny apartment. He's on disability. He can't work because of his conditions. And he was basically told that the only way he could manage out of this was suicide, assisted suicide, because it'd be far worse in poverty. It'd be far worse in becoming homeless. And as a disabled person, it's downright insane. And considering that Canada, the economy is literally falling apart. It's crumbling beneath us. The whole healthcare system is in scrambles right now, and things could be a lot better, and it could be a lot better, but they're just refusing not to. They're refusing not to, and it's just downright insane. So this is just another example of the cruelty here in Canada that we're doing to our own people. In this case, though, this is involving a veteran, a disabled veteran from the Canadian Armed Forces who the Canadian government offered aid of dying because she asked for a stairlift, because she asked for assistance in order to remain alive. And they basically told her to just go die, because apparently the Canadian government can't even assist the people, that the brave men and women that sacrifice their livelihoods to fight their battles. You know, the people that went off to war overseas, fought torrentious scenarios whatsoever, and came back home, and this is the treatment that they get. And it's downright diabolical. And they're showing it here on the news here. And just even the news reports, they're just kind of going along with it. They're not holding the government accountable. They're not saying, hey, maybe we should investigate this. Maybe we should hold these people accountable for the fact that they're basically telling their citizens to die more frequently, because Canada just doesn't have the opportunity to help people in need. So let me just show you. This is the news report here from Global National. And let me just show you how gruesome this really is.
For Christine Gauthier, the fight to get a wheelchair lift in her home has been an uphill battle.
I have to crawl down the stairs on my butt with the wheelchair in front of me to be able to access my house.
While pleading her case to a Veterans Affairs case manager over the phone in 2019, she was told something that would leave her feeling shocked.
If things are so hard at this point, and you just can't keep going on, and you know we can assist you with aid to die.
And she...
After one phone call, yeah, things are rough and hard for you, and I understand that, but you can just go die. Like, I would help you. I would actually put the tax dollars that Canadians have put towards to invest in people and this country, that would actually stimulate the economy. We could be doing that, but you know what? You can just rather die. You can rather die because we really don't care. We just really don't care. We don't have the know-how to do so. We don't have the initiative. But we always have money for scandals. We have money for laundering towards Bay Street, which is basically our version of Wall Street. We have money to launder to other nations. We're doing it with Ukraine. We're doing it with other nations across the board. We have money to gamble towards on the World Economic Forum. Like we have money to spare, just not on you, not on the people of Canada, not on the healthcare, education, infrastructure that would actually benefit the country and actually excel our economy. If we actually help and provide and get these people the assistance that they need, Canada would actually be excelling on its own economy. But we don't do that. We refuse to do that. We rather just tell these people to die from one phone call, especially to a veteran. Like, how disgraceful, how disgusting, how diabolical that is. And we already know that the abuse that veterans are getting here in Canada, I know that, in America it's a lot worse, but, here in Canada, you'd think there'd be a little different. It's not really. Not really. We're becoming more and more just disregarded to our own veterans. I think it was even Justin Trudeau admitted at a town hall event that they just don't have the money. You're costing us too much. You veterans, the ones that sacrifice your livelihoods to fight in our battles, you cost too much. He admitted that right to an audience at a town hall. You just cost too much. We have nothing to give to you. But it's okay. We can give a lot of money to Ukraine. We can give a lot of money to the World Economic Forum. We can use that money for scandals. We can use that money for jet airliners and limousines to go to these fancy dinner parties. But not to get this woman a stairlift, which is why the Veteran Affairs Committee is telling her to just die. That's just downright awful. Downright insanely awful. And you want to know how outright awful it is? Even Ted Cruz picked up on this. Ted Cruz, who abandoned his own state at a time of need, at a time of emergency, when they had that power outage and they had that ice freeze over Texas. He went on to some vacation and basically told Texas to screw up. Even Ted Cruz knows how wrong this is. Ted Cruz knows how wrong this is. A right-wing Republican is realizing that we need to be more and more kind to our citizens. That's kind of more left-wing socialism, if you will. And Ted Cruz knows it. Ted Cruz saying that this is wrong. How we're treating our own veterans here in Canada. And I just want to show this too, because this is also interesting. So where is our money going towards? If we can't help our veterans, if we can't provide good infrastructure, if we can't, maintain our healthcare system, if we can't maintain our education system, which is the whole point of our tax system, the whole point of our taxes is going towards investments within our country so that we can have and excel as a nation and grow our economy through investments within our country. Where is that money going towards then? Well, turns out from this news release, it's all going towards the most corrupted nation in Eastern Europe. So this is a news release from May of 2022, May 20th. So this is just kind of the highlight of how much money we've money laundered to one of the most corrupted nations with actual neo-Nazis and white supremacists. So they say today at the G7 finance minister, today at the G7 finance ministers and central bank governors meeting in Germany, the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Chrystia Freeland, announced an additional loan of $250 million. Additional loan. That's on top of all the money that we've already given. We're giving more and more money. Now imagine that $250 million. How tiny that would take to get that woman a stairlift. How little money that would take to get that woman a stairlift. Maybe help the guy in St. Catharines on his rent. How little would it take to actually, invest into our healthcare so we can actually maintain it? How little would it take? But we give $250 million just like that to one of the most corrupted nations in Eastern Europe, right off the bat. To Ukraine through the International Monetary Fund's IMF administer account for Ukraine. Together with previous financial support, this loan brings Canada's financial commitment to Ukraine to a whopping $1.87 billion this year. Let me just remind you, this is from May 20th of 2022. We're now in December. We're almost at the end of the year. And we've continued to bombard them with more and more money, more and more weaponry. So that $1.87 billion that was at the beginning of the year has now probably doubled. That's the amount of money we've given to the Azov Battalion, the neo-Nazis, that we know firsthand they are Nazis. City News even confirmed it in an investigation that we are arming and helping and assisting white supremacists, self-known white supremacists and neo-Nazis in this country. We know that, and we're still continuing to fund them. And we're letting veterans in our own country just die off because we just don't have the money for it. This funding is separate from, in addition to significant assistance committed through military aid, humanitarian response efforts, and immigration measures. Canada played a leading role in creation of the IMF's multi-donor assisted account for Ukraine, which assists in Ukraine in meeting its balance of payments and budgetary needs and in stabilizing the Ukrainian economy. What about stabilizing our economy? That's again, the whole point of our tax system, the whole point why we pay dues to our nation is to invest into our nation. That's kind of the point of it. That's kind of the whole goddamn point. And if we're refusing to do so, if we're just completely bonkers and off the rails and just letting our entire economy and our entire system collapse within itself to fund another country, then what's the point of paying our taxes? What's the point of it then? But it's good to know that we're stabilizing a corrupted nation with a coup prime minister that was installed by the U.S. military-industrial complex. It's good to know that they're getting the assistance that we need. It's good to know that Ukraine is getting good schools and hospitals and whatnot, as opposed to us, as opposed to other nations, as opposed to European nations that are going to freeze their ass during the winter because the military-industrial complex blew up the pipeline and told them to suck it up. Suck it up, because getting Russian oil is the most dangerous thing for you, apparently, according to the experts that have done the most outrageous war crimes. Canada, together with its G7 allies, will continue to support Ukraine as it fights to defend its sovereignty and democracy. That right there is kind of laughable. That, first of all, Canada, as a Canadian, I always grew up to the fact that Canada was supposed to be the peacekeeping nation. That was kind of the point of our military. We weren't the offensive regime of the military styles of the United States. We're not like the world's police. We were kind of more of the assistants. We were kind of more of the, we're going to go and help people. That's what I was always told to believe, but it just seems more and more like we're going into that territory of being the world's police and stepping into the reins, become more Americanized. And the fact that we're a NATO nation, NATO is also, demanding that we push more for this. We're basically being blackmailed by them and military contractors. we basically lost our own sovereignty. That's the kicker. That's kind of the joke of all this, is that we're basically giving up our own sovereignty and letting our own nation collapse to allow this to happen, to allow this charade of a war, this orchestration of a complete, utter disaster that's killed off more and more people, innocent civilians have cost their lives to this, to excel the demands of the military contractors, the NATO funding that comes from this, the profiteers of war crimes, and the fact that we're also doing this to benefit natural gas companies. Because primarily one of the biggest highlights of the Ukraine conflict is the fact that Russia is providing European nations with its natural gas pipeline. The United States does not want that. The United States wants to own the market for natural gas, especially into Europe. So what they do? They blow up the pipeline, blame it on Russia. So, like I said, we basically have no sovereignty. We basically don't have sovereignty. We don't have democracy because it's bought out by a criminal cabal of corporations, of global elitists that could not care less about any of this. Could not care less. They're sitting hightail in their penthouses and their limousines and eating creme brulee, and they're just laughing to the bank on this. Meanwhile, people back at home have to contemplate on death because the country that they knew and loved and tried to support and actually fought for just gave up on them, could not care less for them. And that is downright devastating, disgusting, awful, revolting, and inhumane. But they still want you to believe Putin is the awful one. Putin is the evil, awful one of all the leaders. Considering we're doing this to our own people, considering what the United States does to its own people, considering what European unions and those nations have done to their people. Putin somehow is the awful one, according to the mainstream media, according to the experts. You know, our loving, supporting people, the intelligence communities, and the military-industrial complex, and the contractors, and the heads of Raytheon and Boeing, Lockheed Martin. You know, those trusted figures that know exactly who to kill, and the millions and millions of lives that they wasted over the years for their own bank, for their own capital. It's downright revolting.